This is the Paltalk News Network.
The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM Software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users on demand on iTunes and on YouTube, and on my blog, GaryBaumgarten.com, where you can post your comments, whether you agree with yours truly or not. No retribution. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, we're syndicated to an additional 12 million households. I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. I welcome you to the show. If you looked at the Paltalk News Network site at all today, paltalknewsnetwork.com, you would have seen at least 3 stories there about the Gitmo Five. The 5 accused 9/11 terrorist suspects who will be transferred from Guantanamo Bay Detention Center to Federal District Court here in Manhattan. The big lead to the story today is this. The attorney for one of the accused says that they will plead not guilty. The attorney, Scott Fenstermaker, says that they will not deny their involvement in the attacks, but they will try to explain them. Now, there are a lot of people who are concerned that these guys are going to use this as a bully pulpit to spread their jihadist ideals across the globe and in the United States, and they might geek some people up to do something stupid again as a result of it. Sharing in those concerns is our great guest today, the founding partner of a law firm in New Jersey, Remi Spencer, Spencer. You see her on the Fox News Channel and other cable networks, giving her legal advice about this and other issues. If you were tuned in Thursday for the Diana Falzone show, you saw that she was Diana's guest Thursday night, and she's graciously agreed to give us a little bit of time off from her lawyering to join us and help put this into perspective and answer your questions. Remi Spencer, welcome to News Talk Online on the Paltalk News Network.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a thrill to be on with you.
Well, it's a thrill to have you with us. By the way, I don't know if you knew this, but our mutual friend, the aforementioned Diana Falzone, will be on Red Eye on the Fox News Channel tonight. Did you know that?
I did know that, and it's always a great show, especially with Diana on, so everyone should hopefully get a chance to see it tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you heard what I said about the latest lead to this story. They're going to plead not guilty, even though they apparently, while in military custody, at least Mohammed has acknowledged their contributions to what happened here in Lower Manhattan and in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and in Washington, D.C. on September the 11th, 2001. Doesn't this just open things up to all kinds of concerns about these defendants using the federal district court system as a bully pulpit to spread their hateful ideology?
You're right. I think that there are a whole number of concerns that we have to be mindful of now that these defendants are going to be tried in our standard federal criminal district courts. I have a lot of faith in our justice system. I think it's the best in the world, and our federal district court judges are some of the best. But that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be problems with these cases that we wouldn't otherwise see in a military tribunal. And specifically, the defendants are going to be afforded a whole number of legal arguments that they might not have been entitled to in a military tribunal. A lot of your viewers and listeners may not be aware of the distinctions between the two types of trials, but they're significant. For example, in our federal district courts, a jury has to be unanimous in their decision, and if there's a holdout, there's what we have, what we call a hung jury, and that would result typically in another trial. tribunals, though, military trials, require only a 2/3 majority. Also, we have different levels of evidence standards or different rules of evidence. What's admissible in a tribunal is very different from what's admissible in our federal district courts, which is where we're seeing most of the conversation on these topics. A lot of the things that these defendants want to talk about, what they want to get press about, what they want to have a global communication about, will have an opportunity, not a guarantee, but an opportunity to come out in our open federal district courts. And I know that's causing a lot of concern. Also, two other quick things that distinguish military tribunals are that defendants aren't necessarily guaranteed a right to appeal in a military trial, but in our federal district courts you can be guaranteed they will appeal if they are convicted. And finally, military trials are not necessarily open to the public. They can be held secretly if there are issues of national safety or concern that would justify a private trial. But we know our federal courts are open to the public.
I know people in the intelligence community who I've spoke to who are saying, Remi Spencer, that they are concerned that information that they receive from confidential informants, which led to the arrests of these individuals, could come out publicly in federal court, and if at the very least it could close down those lines of communication, at the very worst could put those individuals in harm's way.
And that's a very legitimate concern. Now, look, we shouldn't panic. We do have safeguards in our systems. In a lot of cases where there are confidential informants and sensitive information, judges can issue what's called a protective order, which would keep that portion of the trial confidential. But nonetheless, these are going to be issues that will be litigated in court. And it's hard to imagine how, even with the safeguards in place, that some sensitive information could come out. And that is a very real concern that we need to be mindful of as these cases go forward.
Here's another thing that concerns me a little bit. The President of the United States has pledged that the Gitmo Five will be convicted and will be put to death once they are convicted. A, I don't know how he can pledge such a thing. He's not in a position to. And B, I don't think there are any guarantees of this, and I will tell you why. In Algeria, and I recognize that Algeria's court system is not at all the same as ours, there were two fellas who had been held at Gitmo for 7 years. They were taken back to Algeria to stand trial on terrorism charges. They claimed at trial that they were brutally tortured while at Gitmo, which I would not be surprised if that's not part of the defense on the Gitmo Five.